Hey, it's me again. We're continuing our series on worship. Now, when we talked about what worship was last week, we defined it as this. Actually, Noah Webster, the dictionary guy, defined it as this. That worship is extravagant respect or admiration for or devotion to an object of esteem. That's a lot of fancy words, and it's like, what in the world does all that mean? So basically, it's this. If you're a human being, which you are a worshiper. In fact, we said last week that every single person on this planet worships something. Now for you, how do you actually know what you worship? Great question. Well, it's kind of like this. If that thing or person that you spend the most time with, that you rearrange your schedule for, right? It's the thing that you pledge your allegiance to, that you show your devotion toward, that you do anything for, the thing that you say, I can't live without this or you, right? That is what you worship. Now, that could be like Instagram, it could be video games, right? It could be sports teams, it could be boyfriends or girlfriends, whatever that person or thing that you spend the most time with, that you can't live without, that you would even say, hey, this is a part of who I am. Well, that is what you worship. That's your object of esteem. Well, tonight we're going to talk about another worship song called Great I Am. It's one we've already been singing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But before we jump into the song itself and where the phrase actually comes from, I want to show you some pictures. How many of you have ever heard of the Hubble telescope? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the Hubble. Right? Okay. So the Hubble telescope is this humongous telescope that's sitting in space, outside the Earth, that's pointing toward deep space and taking pictures of things that's like way, way far away. It's got really cool stuff, and I want to show you some pictures here. All right, check this out. This first picture is called the Trifid Nebula. Now, it's 9,000 light years away. Now, what's a light year, right? This is really crazy, right? A light year is like saying, look, how long does it take to get there in a year if we traveled at the speed of light? So it would take you 9,000 years to get there. Which, by the way, you're not that fast. A little news flash. And speaking of Flash, the only person that can travel at the speed of light is the Flash. And he's fake, all right? He's a comic book character, so he's not real. So none of us could travel at the speed of light, but that's how far away it is, right? 9,000 light years. That's crazy. Now check out this picture. These are 2 galaxies. Now we live in the Milky Way galaxy, one galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy is coming together. Now how far away is this galaxy? 114 million light years. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? That's a long way away. Now check out this picture. The Sombrero Galaxy. It's 28 million light years away. And it holds, check this out, it holds 800 billion suns, and it's 50,000 light years across in length. So 800 billion suns, 50,000 light years across in length. That is big. I mean, think about our galaxy. We have one. That's what we do. Like guns, right? We have one sun. One sun in our galaxy. Imagine, look at this picture. 800 billion suns. That's hot. Now, when we're talking about this universe, I mean, it's bigger than we could ever imagine, right? Except we have a few pictures of it. It's huge, though, man. It's big. Now, I want you to keep that picture in your mind as we transition to the story of where the phrase "Great I Am" actually comes from. It comes from the book of Exodus in the Bible. And now in this part of the story, God is telling a man by the name of Moses that he is going to free the entire nation of Israel, millions of people, from the Egyptian Empire. Now, the Israelites had been slaves to the Egyptians for 400 years. That's the only way life that they know is that of a slave, and God tells Moses, you're going to be the guy to help deliver them. Now the Egyptians, they didn't hold on to one of our 4 values, which says God matters. They think God mattered that much. It didn't matter much at all. In fact, they believed that Pharaoh, the ruler of the Egyptians, was actually God in the flesh. Told Moses, you're going to go to Pharaoh and you're going to tell him you're going to experience 10 horrific events if you decide not to let the Israelites go free from slavery to you. And Moses is like, you want me to do that? That's, yeah. He just started freaking out. He's like, well, who do I tell Pharaoh, the guy that's like ruling us, who do I tell him sent me? And then God says this phrase. He says, I am who I am. It's kind of an interesting phrase, right? It's actually in the original language in Hebrew, it's 4 consonants. YHWH. Some people like to pronounce that Yahweh. Maybe you've heard that name before, Yahweh. Can you say that? Yahweh. Yahweh, right? Well, even like the Jewish people wouldn't even refer to God by that name. And it wasn't like this was like, hey, is this God's name? It's kind of like, you know, God introduces himself to me and says, hey, my name's Yahweh God. What's your name? My name's Mike Lamson. It's not like that at all, right? That's not what he was saying when he said, I am who I am. What he meant was, it was a statement about, if you want to know what's real, if you want to know what's really true, like actual truth and actual like reality, you're looking at him. That's what he said when he said, I am. Now what's awesome is that later in the story of the Bible, Jesus, in John chapter 8, when he is being questioned by some critics who's asking him who he really is, Jesus says this. Listen to this. He says, before Abraham was, Abraham is referring to a Jewish hero back in Genesis chapter 12 where we discover him. Genesis chapter 12, he says, before Abraham was, I am. There's that phrase again, right? So Jesus is like, hey, you want to know what God's like? Hey, you want to know what reality's like? Hey, do you don't want to know what truth is like? You're looking at him. He's claiming to be God in the flesh. Now, what blows my mind is that this God who created those things that you saw the Hubble take pictures of, that's way, way far away, is the same God who pursues us and who walks with us, who decides to enter into our lives. This humongous God, and he says, you know what, I want to walk with you, you're worth it. And he actually entrusts us, gives us a mission to show this world and reflect what he is like. I mean, that is ridiculous to me. That this huge God who can do whatever he wants, who's that powerful, loves us this much. That is the spirit of the song, Great I Am. It's understanding how big God is, how this God is for us, and it's a prayer really to say, I want to walk with what's true. I want to walk with what's truly real, that which gives life, and that is you, God. And this whole song talks about that. Now you're going to spend some time tonight in your small groups walking through this song together. You're going to talk about all sorts of things. Things like heaven and hell. Things like, what does loving the world and hating the dark actually mean? Or whatever else the song decides to bring up for your. You're going to spend some good time talking about it, and you want to make sure that you have your index card with you because you want to write down a question that you may have as you spring up in discussion, and then you're going to come back and drop that in the box in the youth room when we come back. Now, we're not going to go all the way to the end tonight. We want you to come back at 7:20. We're going to wrap up. We're going to sing the song again, but we need to wrap up. But bring your questions with you on that index card to drop in the box. So the small group assignments are going to be up on the next screen. Make sure that you take your index cards with you, but be back here at 7:20. We'll see you then.